Beg your pardon? Yeah, rubber trap.
I guess he has to get everybody.
Handsome Rotarians to escort you there. We're going to be getting started just in a few moments, but I want to encourage you, if you would, to be making your way to your seats. And also, I have a word of wisdom from a couple of our large-bodied Rotarians. They have asked if we would to kind of scoot up close to the table. For obvious reasons, some of our waiters can't get between the tables in their condition. It's quite obvious their condition is not going to change between now and dinner time. So that's kind of what we did. I already know each other. We've been getting ready to start here in just a moment. That's what we're going to teach you. Nice, beautiful dinner music. Visit just a little bit and then we'll be getting started. Thank you. Dave Abernathy Appreciation Dinner, sponsored by the Rotary Club in Pittsburg. I'm Perry Henderson. I'll be your master of ceremonies for the evening. And now it's my privilege to present our guest of honor, the Honorable David H. Abernathy and Mrs. Abernathy. As posted by the Red River Army Depot Color Guard. This will be followed by our national anthem by Mr. Brian Price, Associate Pastor, First Baptist Church here in Pittsburgh. Please rise. Will be voiced by the Reverend Dan Lewis, former minister of the First United Methodist Church here in Pittsburgh and currently Director of Operations and Personnel of the United Methodist Reporter in Dallas. Reverend Lewis.
Let us be in an attitude of prayer. Gracious God, the one who has given us life, we thank you for this opportunity, this great land where life is more valued and more free than any other place in your creation. We thank you for the opportunity to come here to celebrate a particular life. Life that epitomizes what this great nation and what your creation is about. Making the most of what you've given us. Making the most for those around us. We ask that your Spirit might be present here with us this evening. Might guide and direct us as we enter into this moment that is serious and moments that might not be so serious. We ask that you would bless this food that we're about to receive, the nourishment of our bodies, from the strength and the energy we receive from it, we might go forth to be your people in this your world. Amen.
You'll be seated. Now we only ask that you sit back and enjoy your dinner as it's served to you by the Rotary Club members and their spouses. Enjoy.
I knew what he was doing. He's aiming above. Right, still power. Take a look at it.
Don't do that till the end.
I want to welcome any fellow Rotarians that we have with us. We have some of our officers at the head table with us and others that may be in the group tonight. We want to make you feel welcome at the banquet this evening. Then the third group we want to make you feel very welcome here tonight are any elected officials, dignitaries, staff members, candidates, anybody that's willing to admit you're a politician. Raise your hand, just kind of wave it. We're proud tonight to have for our musical entertainment Dr. Ron Clinton and Betty Whitlock at the Northeast Texas Community College. They have played our dinner music, and now that we might give our full attention to them, we've asked them to play another selection for us.
Thank you. We'll just play one number for you, and this, of course, is dedicated to the mayor, and it's one of Betty's favorite. It's a violin and piano piece, and Betty, being a violinist, it's one of her favorite violin pieces, written by a man named Fritz Kreisler. And what's the name of it? It's called Liebesfreude. It means love's joy. That's the translation. I just play the piano. I don't know what it
time, we have a Rotary presentation to be made by Mr. Cecil Tomlinson, our district governor.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Pittsburg Rotary Club for sponsoring this event. It's a tremendous undertaking, and I think that we owe them all a great big hand. An honorary membership in Rotary is the only membership that you must earn before you receive it. An honorary membership is earned by a life dedicated to others. The members selected for this membership of the Rotary Club of Pittsburg truly exemplifies Rotary's creed, service above self. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this occasion honoring Mayor Dave Abernathy. At this time, I would like to present this honorary membership certificate to the mayor on behalf of the Rotary Club of Pittsburg. And it reads, the Rotary Club of Pittsburg, Texas proudly presents this certificate of honorary membership to D.H. Abernathy, the 3rd day of June, 1988, for service above self.
Last night, when we were trying to put all this together and have everything in its proper place and done just like it's supposed to be done, one of our members came up to me and told me he thought I was brave because I would get here and stand up and speak before such a group. And I told VCAPS that really didn't seem like bravery to me. Being the owner and operator of a steel foundry, this seems quite easy and not taking a lot of bravery. And I got thinking about that. And bravery really, to me, is being the first to do something. Being the first one to take that step, to step out and do something. It's much like our mayor, who was the first to establish rural fire protection in our county back in the 50s. Much like our mayor, he was the first to build and design fire trucks for use here in our city and in our county. Bravery is really being the first to do something. A good example might be like the first man to drink milk. Can you imagine? No one had ever had milk before, and this first man was brave enough to do it. Can't you just see him saying to a friend out there, look at that growth under that cow. If you'll squeeze that, I'll drink it. Folks, that's bravery. This scares me to death, but that's bravery. It really is. Or, though it might be like the first man to eat an egg. You know, the egg had never been eaten, it was there. We don't know if either the chicken came first, but we know that there'd never been an egg eaten, and we had to have a guy brave enough to eat that first egg. And I suppose it probably went something like this. He pointed to that same friend and said, say, listen, if you would just follow that chicken around everywhere he goes, and whatever falls out, I'll eat it. Folks, that's bravery. That's really brave. Speaking of chickens, don't you just love the transition that we got here? Speaking of chickens, our next speaker is the Chief Executive Officer of Pilgrim's Pride Corporation, the 6th largest chicken producer in our nation, approximately the 12th largest producer of eggs in our nation. He's a man who needs no introduction. He's a Christian businessman, a gentleman, and my friend, Mr. Bo Pilgrim.
Perry. It's real good to be here with the mayor and the honorable judge, all of you. In fact, Dennis, I don't know how far most of you come, but I come from New Orleans myself this afternoon, Mayor, to be here with you. I'll never forget the first time, Robert, I met Dave Abernathy in 1946. The agricultural building here in Pittsburg down in the high school burned, and I don't know how many of you remember. I see some sitting at this table over here Gene and others should remember that. And it burned the building completely, all of the equipment that we had for training in the building. And of course, Joe Winkle and I made a trip. And I never forget either. One of the things, Joe, as we drove along, once in a while he'd want to stop and eat, those of you that know Joe. And I said, well, I'm really not hungry. And he said, well, I'm not either, but I don't want to get hungry. When we got to the end of our trip, we ended up in Hope, Arkansas, and that was a long trip back in 1946. And Mr. Flemings had sent us up there to try to pick up some equipment where we could put the agriculture training back into effect. And we went into this guy's office, and here sat Dave Abernathy in 1946. So that's when I first met Dave. 1950, we built a little feed mill here in Pittsburg next door to Dave, and I've been neighbors with him ever since. In fact, we've become very close neighbors. I remember last spring, it was in the evening, kind of cool, and Dave and Laverne had moved out in the backyard, and they were sitting there in one of the lawn chairs. And, they got these swings out there where both of you can sit in the same swing. And Laverne lay her hand around Dave's shoulder, and she says, Dave, whatever happened to our relationships, whatever happened to our sex relationships? And Dave, he said, well, hell, Laverne, I don't know. I don't think we even got a Christmas card from him. I was thinking coming back this afternoon, as I thought about Dave and the years of service that he's given, and the outstanding fiscal management ability that Dave has as he's worked with the city budgets here for 40 years, and held the taxes down and still made a beautiful, good place here to raise a family and educate a family and to worship. His managerial knowledge, I think, in city government is outstanding. And over and above that, his technical knowledge as he's worked with the fire department and the streets and the highway department and sewage and water and electrical people. I think Homer, even his ability to negotiate for good gas rates and electrical rates. And he's gone before the Texas Highway Department, as most of you know, many times. If it hadn't been for Dave, we wouldn't have the overpass over the railroad here in the bypass. Dave is a guy that always gives a second effort in anything that he goes out for, whether it's a government program, fire, rescue program, whatever it might be. Socially, to me, Dave Abernathy has always been himself. He chose a good Christian spouse in Laverne, and they've raised a fine family here in Pittsburg. Dave's always willing to give more than 50%. It don't make any difference if it's in the family or wherever the call of duty is. Dave's a happy person. He knows how to relax, and he knows how to fish. He's a high-energy person. He's not a selfish person. He's involved in politics. He participates. I know, thinking about politics and thinking about Honorable Sam Hall being here, and I used to visit with Judge Hall likes there in Washington. I can't keep from calling him Sam rather than Honorable Judge Halls, but his selection by President Reagan as a judge here certainly speaks well for him. And I spent a lot of time judge around Washington, and one of the things I always noticed about Washington, I think politics has changed a whole lot myself. As I traveled around up there, everywhere you'd go, and you'd see a sign that said that George Washington slept here. And maybe you'd go somewhere else, and it was always George Washington slept here. And, you know, Gary Hart tried that one time. He got in trouble. Politics is changing. Dave keeps up with all this. He makes a point to know the fellow. He appreciates the free enterprise system, and he votes for the person. And when it comes to economics, I think Dave is conservative, he's competitive, and he's thrifty. In his education, he's got lots of street smart, as well as having a formal education from Oklahoma University. He also, I think Dave's the kind of guy that has a continued education program because he wants to stay up and he wants to know what's going on. And as we look at Dave, a high energy person, and certainly he is, he exercises a lot. Most of you have seen him put on his dog and pony show with the skates. He can still do that. He's very active. He eats right. He eats lots of chicken. Well, he don't abuse drugs or alcohol. He's one that gets adequate rest when we're not bumping the cars down behind him there. He calls me about that every once in a while. I think as we think of Dave and his religion, he's one that accepted Christ early in life, joined his church. He demonstrates his belief. He's a man of the Bible, attends church regularly, and I think he's a strong witness for Jesus Christ. In fact, I'm not sure that Dave don't take this too far, his religion. I was in Austin about a year ago. I served on the water board down there 6 years, so I had to go often. Of course, Dave has to go to Austin quite often. And I was checked in to the Sheraton Hotel there in Austin. And I saw Dave come in and registered. And when he registered, he stepped back. And as he stepped back, I mentioned to someone, there's our mayor. It wasn't just a minute ago. There was a lady came in to register. And the guy told us, we don't have any more rooms. I'm sorry. Says, this guy here just got the last room. Of course, I was kind of laying back myself. I wouldn't say anything today. And the lady stood there and talked to him 2 or 3 minutes, and they disappeared on the elevator. And I didn't see either one of them until the next morning. I ran into the lady there at breakfast, and I mentioned to her, I says, I saw you talking to our mayor last night. He's the mayor of Pittsburg. Very well respected fellow there. And she says, well, I can appreciate that. And I said, well, why do you say that? She said, well, last night when I checked in, there wasn't any more rooms, and he invited me to go to his room. We talked a minute, and he says, you know, I don't know you, and you don't know me, and we don't know them, and they don't know us. Well, why not? Why not? And she said, well, you know, come to think about it, I don't know you, and you don't know me. We don't know them, they don't know us. Well, let's go. So they went up to the room, and Dave, being honorable as he is, he says, now you can choose either the couch or the bed, whichever one you'd like. And of course, she took the couch because it was Dave's room. Dave got the cover and tucked her in, and Dave went to bed. And of course, apparently she got kind of cool and she woke up and she approached the bed and she says, Dave, I'm kind of cool. And Dave says, well, you know, I don't know you, you don't know me. We don't know them, they don't know us, you know, why not? She got into bed with Dave. After a few minutes, she moved over close to him and put her feet against him and all. And she says to Dave, Dave, why don't we have a party? And Dave says, well, you know, I don't know you, you don't know me, we don't know them, and they don't know us. He says, who in the hell are we going to invite? Dave, I have here, please, a letter from our state senator, Richard Anderson. It says, Dear Mayor Abernathy, the people of Pittsburgh tonight honor you with a banquet, but also, I am sure, with their heartfelt words and thought of appreciation for your lifelong dedication to the future of Pittsburgh. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you and the citizens of Pittsburgh, which you represent on this 39th year of career of public service. Tonight, you are recognized for long, hard work. Tomorrow, the works started yesterday will continue and will pay great dividends to the future generations of Kemp County citizens. I'm sorry I could not be here in person to join the celebration as my back surgery prevents my attendance. However, I want to extend my best wishes to you, join with the people in Pittsburgh in honoring you for a job well done. Sincerely, Richard Anderson, State Senator of the 1st District. Thank you. Also, I have a Senate proclamation. Whereas the Agricultural Youth Center in Pittsburgh, Texas, of June 3rd, 1988, Mayor Dave Abernathy will be honored for his lasting contribution, his community, and his state, and the occasion is truly worthy of legislature recognition. And whereas Mayor Abernathy has faithfully served as city councilman and as mayor in the government of Pittsburgh for nearly 4 decades, and his leadership and judgment have done much to make the community in which it resides takes justifiable pride. And whereas that he is running unopposed for re-election, the mayor is ample evidence of the appreciation of Pittsburgh citizens for his effective management. And whereas his ability and energy are all recognized throughout the East Texas region and the state, he is a member of the Executive Committee of the East Texas Council of Governments and have responded to the request to work with state agencies and advisory boards. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Senate of the state of Texas joins with citizens of Pittsburgh in expressing lasting gratitude to D.H. Abernathy for 39 years of selfless service to the community and the state. And be it further proclaimed that a copy of this proclamation be prepared for him as a memento of his occasions in his honor and as an expression of high esteem from the Texas Senate with the best wishes for many future successes. Is signed by Richard Anderson and the Secretary of the State, Betty King, and Dave. About 2 weeks ago, I was in the governor's office and discussed Dave and the contribution that he has made to Pittsburg and Kemp County. The governor, on 2 different occasions, has been in my house, and Dave's been with him, and Governor Clemens knows of his contribution. And I have here, Dave, a certificate from William P. Clemens Jr., the governor, and its greetings to the Honorable Dave Abernathy. Congratulations. As your community recognized you for many years of unselfish service, I commend you for your call to service as mayor of Pittsburg. Your commitment and dedication in many years of service has certainly made Pittsburg a better place to live, educate, and worship for all people of Kemp County. The fact that you have given more years of service than any other mayor in any city in Texas is a historical event that should remind all of us of our obligations to God and to our fellow man and for the good of the others. Signed sincerely, W.P. Clemens Jr., Governor of the State of Texas.
Paul has a good suggestion, and that is that we might stand up just a minute, stretch your legs, and give you opportunity to draw a deep breath. Okay, thank you. Several years ago, the mayor was working on the air conditioning unit at the Methodist Church, and I was helping him. And to tell you what kind of guy this fellow is, somebody that can get a Baptist deacon to work on a Methodist air conditioning unit on a Saturday afternoon in August, he's got something going for him. But nevertheless, we were working on it, and the mayor was using some pretty strong names for that air conditioning unit. It was down in the pit behind on the back side of the building, and he was not using the name written on the front of it. Let me just say that. It's those kind of names that you reserve for your car won't crank, or your pickup's got a flat, or you hit your thumb with a hammer, you know, those kind of words. Reverend Dan Lewis walked up behind us, and I turned around and spoke. The mayor turned and spoke to him, and kept right on using those same adjectives that he was using on that air conditioning unit. And I learned one of the mayor's finest attributes that hot Saturday afternoon, and that's consistency. Now I know what you're thinking. What did Brother Dan say? He showed wisdom beyond his years. He said absolutely nothing. But he has asked for a chance to talk to us tonight, to say a few words, and we're going to let him do that right now.
Well, Judge Hall, if this doesn't work, does it? It's just too high. I don't know how I found myself in between two persons like Judge Hall. But I'm glad to be here. Mayor Abernathy, Mrs. Abernathy, it's a delight to be able to share this evening with you. Mary has just revealed something that I didn't know. One of the first things I was told by Bill Paul Henson when I came to town was that we have a mayor that gets excited every now and then and speaks in tongues, Pastor. Don't pay any attention to it. I want to talk to you a bit more about that air conditioning unit, Barry. I don't know about this fellow. Boys told us some things about him I didn't know either. I got a little excited a while ago. Dave, Joyce leaned over and looked at me and she said, well, some woman has kissed you right on the cheek. Left lipstick there. And all of a sudden I realized I couldn't tell whether she was jealous or surprised. It's so good to be in the Pittsburg community, to be here and share this wonderful evening with you. I know what it means to you. It didn't take me long to learn to appreciate it. Dave Abernathy, when we got here, one of the first people that we met. In fact, I recall my meeting with him. my oldest son, Paul, with me. Paul must have been about 8 years old at the time. And Paul had heard we had the mayor of the town in our congregation. And when we met Dave, I mentioned to Paul that this was the mayor of the town. All seemed to be just about as impressed as his father was. I liked the idea of having the mayor of the city in my congregation. For an 8-year-old, Paul was particularly attentive to everything that Dave said. And as you might know, Dave started talking about fire engines. And that helped a little bit also. But after a bit, we finished our conversation, and Dave went on his way, and we started on our way. Paul said, well, Dan, so that's the mayor. I said, yeah, that's the mayor. It was obvious my son was really impressed that his father was going to have this power of politics sitting at his feet every Sunday morning and listening to what he had to say. I was impressed a little bit myself. As we walked along, he said, well, that's really the mayor. I said, yeah, it's really the mayor. He said, well, Dad, is that the one they wrote the song about? And he stopped me. I said, son, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, you know, Dad, the old gray mare. That was him, all right. That was him. One of the things that always happens to a pastor when he arrives in a new town, there'll be someone in the congregation let him know pretty early on that he's really not in control. That they're in control. They were here before you got here, and they'll be here after you leave, and they're in control. Dave demonstrated that in a rather unusual way. Getting ready the first morning there to have our first worship service together, I was kind of doing my fretting around the pulpit. Dave came in and said, preacher, see a clock up there? And Dave, I said, he says, I set it. I climbed up on a chair and set the clock. Preacher, see a thermostat? Yeah, I see a thermostat, Dave. He said, I take care of that. I'm in control of it. I smiled and I said, okay. But one thing I'd already learned was there's one major problem that a pastor has in any church he serves. And it relates to the thermostat. And I don't know whether Dave has found this out yet, but Dave, you're never going to get that thermostat set between hot flashes and poor circulation. It will just never happen. Been thinking about Dave quite a bit. Since I found out we were going to be able to come over here and share this time with all of you, he, Laverne. I didn't know how much I was thinking about him until the other night I had a dream about him. I was not involved in the dream, I was just seeing it. Dave had shown up in heaven. Barry's already demonstrated to you that he's a praying man. Showed up in heaven, as you would expect. Dave was going around visiting one person up, won't tell him about Pittsburg County. Ran across a man that just overwhelmed him. The man just started telling Dave about his life's experiences. And one of the things he wanted to tell him about was the great Jonestown flood. He said, I was there. Greatest flood in all of history. I was there. Well, Dave just couldn't wait. The man finally stopped, not to be outdone. Said, well, let me tell you about the flood in Camp County. About that time, St. Peter walked up and said, hey, Abernathy, you just got here. You don't have a right to tell stories. You can imagine what that did to Dave. They go, wait a minute, he told his story. You know, he's been here a while. So you don't have a right to tell stories until you've been here a while. You've got to deserve the right. They said, well, how long will it be? So that flood he's talking about wasn't anything. I want to tell you about my flood. He said, well, you just be patient, Dave. You be patient and I'll let you know when you can tell your story about your flood. Well, time began to go on, 5,000 years, 10,000 years, 15,000 years. Dave come around every now and then tapping St. Peter on the shoulder. When can I tell my story? Be patient, Dave. I'll get to it. Well, after about 50,000 years in heaven, St. Peter came to Dave. Dave is about giving up hope. St. Peter said, Dave, we're going to have an assembly. And I want you to tell the story about the flood in Kent County. Dave it was finally there. The day had finally arrived. He began to try to recall that story this other fellow told, because this one was sure going to be a better flood. He got ready. The day arrived. Assembly was there. All of heaven was there. St. Peter was sitting beside Dave. And said a prayer or two, sang a hymn or two. St. Peter just started to get up, introduced Dave, and sat back down. He said, Dave, I think I ought to tell you, Noah's in the audience. Dave to me is a man who epitomizes a saying I've heard so many times, and I'm sure that you have too. Early on when I started in my ministry, an older pastor told me, he said, you've got to get all your people in the church involved in the church. But if you want a job done, find the busiest man in your church and ask him to do it, and he'll get it done. That's Dave Abernathy. Always busy, always able to take on one more job and get it done. I think it says a good thing. I think the greatest gift that any one of us can be given is what's being given here today this evening. When a community steps forward and says, we like what you've done. We like what you have been in the midst of us. Dave, I'm sure it warmed your heart as it did mine. And I sat here this evening, and I watched these young men of this Rotary Club, who particularly are doing themselves honor by honoring you. They say something about their values. They say something about their standards. They say something about the goals for their community, and for the standard of living for their families and their fellow citizens by honoring you. And they say, most of all, you've done it well, good and faithful servant, and we appreciate it, and we want to duplicate it. We weren't here long. You know, on an occasion like this, it's always proper to have a minister say something about the individual. I don't know what you and I should think about the fact, Dave, that they asked the one that had known you the least amount of time to talk about you. But nevertheless, for the period of time we were here, we loved this community. And it didn't take us long to appreciate the fact that Dave Abernathy was one of the reasons that this was the community that it is. We appreciate that time we had here. We appreciate what he did. We said something about coming here. It was the youngest boy said, he's the one that builds the fire trucks, isn't he? For years when we moved to the Dallas area, we'd see a fire truck go down the street and they wanted to know if the mayor built that. I never told him you didn't, Dave. All I know, you might have. Dave was a good parishioner to me. He was one of several people we had in our congregation who was valuable to a pastor. Dave was a man who would come to me very quietly and say, do you know? You know so-and-so's not feeling well. You know so-and-so's having a problem. You know so-and-so's got their feelings hurt about something. Very, very quietly, helping me do the job that I wanted to do. I appreciate it, Dave. I don't know whether I ever said so before or not, but I did. He wasn't the only one. You do yourself honor tonight by being here. I'm proud to be a part of it. Proud to see this moment. We live in a world that too often doesn't honor the people who should be honored. I'm glad to be a part of such an occasion that's so appropriate and so much in keeping with what this great community is. Thank you for the time. Thank you, Your Honor, for a pleasant life in Pittsburgh.
Our keynote speaker for the evening is a gentleman I had the privilege of meeting several years ago when he was our congressman. I was one of the directors of our local hospital, and we had the Veterans Administration, in its infinite wisdom, had decided quite abruptly to quit treating veterans that had kidney disease. It put an incredible burden on our dialysis unit. Took a little hospital that just really wasn't ready for the blow. We didn't have the good, strong affiliation that we have now with the East Texas Hospital Foundation. We were standing on our own. And we were at a point where we couldn't get the job done. And we called on Sam Hall. We told him our dilemma. We told him we needed some help. And Sam helped us. Sam, I just want you to know that we've not forgotten that, and I trust that we never will forget that. There were people whose lives were lengthened, whose quality of life were made better, because we got some help when we needed that help. And I trust that we won't forget that kind of help. It was just about that point that Sam Hall moved up on my list from where he was up to a point just above John Wayne. Just one notch under the mayor. You know, just kind of right there in that number 2 slot. I appreciate that. You know, often we take large gatherings like this to squash rumors, and I want to do that tonight. There is no truth whatsoever to the rumor that the mayor's first choice for speaker tonight was William Wayne Justice. That's it. It is true, however, though, that there is a very strong campaign underway to have Sam Hall cloned so that he might be able to sit on the bench in Beaumont and in Tyler at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the federal judge of these United States, the Honorable Sam B. Hall.
Where'd you get those jokes you told tonight? Then you finished. And I didn't know that old Bo could be so frisky and fast when I did. I thought tonight before he got through with that joke, it's going to be daylight and we were going to be nothing else to tell. And Reverend Lewis, I appreciate what you had to say. I'm glad there was somebody between me and Bo before I had any remarks to make. And I noticed when you walked up here, you had a small yellow piece of paper about this big. And I've got 2 folders. We ought to quit while we're ahead, you know. I'm glad to be here tonight. I haven't known these people as long as many of you have. Nobody has known Dave Abernathy as long as some of you have. And I bet at times you're sick of it. I say that in jest. I wouldn't dare say anything against this guy. The first time, now this is an honest to goodness true statement. The first time I ever got in the position of where I was going to have to get in touch with him was in 1976. I'd always heard of Dave Abernathy. Fred Colvin, Dave Abernathy, people here in Pittsburgh, and I'd known all my Kiwanis days and other days back in Marshall. About 13 people ran for Congress when the esteemed Wright Patman decided to quit. And one of them was a very dear friend of mine right here from Pittsburgh, just next And so I didn't go around to the towns where these people live because I always felt that the town owed it to the people who were running there to support them. Pittsburg can support Jess. Marshall support me. Takes account of me and all. Well, not all, but what I wanted anyway. But I was in Paris one night after the thing had kind of gotten down to two people being involved. I was Senator Aiken. And he said, "You know Dave Abernathy?" I said, "Yes." "How well?" And I related to him what I just told you, that I had not made it a point to go into this town and campaign and that sort of thing. He said, "Well, I want you to get acquainted with him. I see old Jack Ponder sitting back over there against the wall. For the first time I've seen him in a number of years. Jack, good to see you." I do that occasionally, so you'll have to just overlook it. He said, "I want you to go down there and get acquainted with that fella." And he said, "Do you have any preparation H? True story." I said, "I don't need any." He said, "You will." He said, "You'll either need it or he'll cure you, whatever you got." When you start riding in those cars and in those fire trucks. He said, "He has worn me out riding in those things." And he said, "As silly as I ever felt in my life once, we were driving someplace in the Pittsburg area, and he told me to honk the horn." He said, "I've been a state senator then for 20 years. He said, "I went all through town going, ooga, 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 ooga." Well, in about 2 or 3 weeks, I had an occasion to get over here. Met him. Well, the first thing we did, we got in that car, and I ooged all. I thought to myself, I wonder if they ever got Mr. Papman up here doing things. And then this fire truck business. I got corrected by him a moment ago. I said, "You built 3 fire trucks." He says 8. And about 3 or 4 months ago down in Marshall, I had his son burn my house down. I'm telling the truth, aren't I, Dave? That's right. Looked up there, and there was Dave Abernathy burning my house. I'm not going to tell you anymore. I'll let you work your way out of it later on. How much? I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I brought a rain to you tonight. Sit around on a Friday night wearing a tux. I got to spray some cows in the morning. I'm listening to chamber music. Now, boy, I tell you. But I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but I just want to make a remark or two about this man. I've never seen a brochure where one person has done so much for so many people, and has done it in an admirable way, and is not resting upon his laurels by any stretch of the imagination. He's just as active today and tonight and will be tomorrow as he was yesterday and 10, 15 years ago. And there's not another town in Texas, for its size, that can boast of the accomplishments that Dave Abernathy has done for this town and this county and this state. I heard Senator Harris a moment ago from Dallas just make the remark to him, said, "I'll see you in Austin pretty soon." It's just something that those men there and women look forward to, the help and aid and assistance that Dave Abernathy can give to them on so many different issues. Before I left Marshall this afternoon, Ed Howard called me, and he's already talked to Dave. very apologetic because he could not be here tonight. But he said, Sam, I've got a son who's graduating in Texas County. He said, I just can't afford to leave my graduation exercise to come down there to see a couple that I love and respect so much as we do, the Abernathys. And if you didn't believe that same way about him, you wouldn't be here tonight. And every one of you who sits here, who have known him so long, and his helpmate, every one of you could pass by this mic and say things that I'm sure that would be different in many, many respects, because what he has done for you has been different for you and you and you, and you know what I'm talking about. And I just wish our country was full of people who were as dedicated and honest and good and had high remarks to say about everybody. Some not so high. We would have a much better place, much better city, much better country in which to live. Who do we have that are coming along behind men like this? That's a problem that we all have to think about. How many other young Dave Abernathys do we have in Kemp County? How many other young people do we have, not only in Kemp County, but Bowie, Cass, all the other counties, that will come after those people who have done so much for your city and town as men like that? We don't have as many as we think we should have. And as you know, I had an occasion, well, more than one, but one I'll tell you in particular about, when I was in Washington, to see people come into this country for the first time from an Eastern Bloc nation. And you would see them come here off of a 747, speaking no English, having no earthly idea what they were going to do, except they were looking for one thing. And I've thought about it here tonight so many times. And some of you have heard, in this audience, have heard me use this illustration before. If you have, bear with me for the second time. One example. We had a committee meeting, JFK Airport, in 1982, on immigration. When we finished that session, some of the people with the municipal authorities at JFK said, would you like to see some Russian Jewish immigrants coming into this country now? Certainly we did. We went into a room the size of this, maybe a little smaller, and we saw some people coming off of the 747, coming out of the Eastern Bloc nations, coming into this room. There were doors at each side and entrances and exits, and people were standing there with signs around their necks because they were going to sponsor some of these people. And they were coming down just similar to what we have here, this type of a table. On the outside, they had people who were giving toilet articles and things of value to these people who were here for the first time. I was over on this side with some more congressmen and senators and what have you. I picked out a young man and his wife and a little boy about 5 or 6 years old. They were all three holding hands. And I told this guy who I was. He told me who he was. It didn't make any difference who we were. I asked him what he did. He said he was a projectionist. I was just following him on my side of the table, the three of them on the other side of that table. We got down to the end of this table, congestion. He went out about as far as the third table, still holding hands with his wife and little baby. Amidst all of the congestion and talk in that room, they knelt. And I was standing as close to him as I am today, right here. You know what he did? He prayed for the freedom that he had already enjoyed in this country. He prayed for the leaders of the United States. He prayed for the leaders of his country, the Soviet Union. He prayed for the leaders of the cities, specifically New York City, because that's where he was for the moment. By the time he finished, it was as quiet in that room as it is in this room this minute. Now, I got to thinking while I was standing there, he was in this country less than 45 minutes. I had lived here all of my life. And here he was in a public display of prayer, as sincere as any prayer I've ever heard in my life, Doctor. Praying for the freedoms that he has already enjoyed. Already. And he wasn't unpacked yet. I just thought, and I thought about it here tonight, how fortunate we are as citizens of a great nation. How fortunate we are to be able to come here free of any molestation, free of anyone telling us to not come or go, or do you have a permit? How great it was to see this flag brought in here by those young men who are still here, of whom I have the highest regard and respect. And I know you do too. But here we are honoring a man who has done so much. And we do it because we want to do it. We're not made to do it. We're not told that we can be here for an hour and leave. I don't know where that young man and his wife and little boy went, but I'll tell you one thing. If they continued out of that room like they were when they were on their knees speaking of the freedoms that they were enjoying in this country, they are making another Dave Abernathy somewhere in these United States today. Because a young man like that can't depart from the attitude that he had that afternoon. And Dave, I just want to say that it's a signal honor for me to be here tonight. I can think of no person anywhere for whom I have any more admiration and esteem than I have for you. And I want to say it to you on behalf of all of these people who are here, that we wish you every good thing in the future that's yours. We want you to continue health, happiness, and continue doing the thing that have made you such a popular person in Texas. Thank you so very much.
At this time, Joe Rex Robertson, the president of our local Rotary Club, is going to come and make a presentation. I want to make Joe Rex feel right at ease. Joe, the mayor, has been mayor longer than Joe Rex has been Joe Rex.
We have a little presentation to make, and I'd venture to say that the mayor has been mayor longer than the median age of our Rotary Club. And this is a small part tonight, but I consider not, because there is not a day in my life that I can remember that the mayor wasn't the mayor. And somebody asked me the other day, I told him I was going to open the mayor's house. He said, which mayor? I said, the mayor. That person's from top. And they just couldn't get up there. But he's always been the mayor since I can remember. When we started beginning to plan this banquet, you know, whenever you have a banquet, you always got to have a little memento. of that night. And we batted around a few things. And one of the first things, of course, that comes up is we're going to give them a plaque. Well, now, you know, you give people a plaque for 1 year of service. And I've seen some folks that got a plaque for just dinking around for a whole year. And we thought about the trophy. Well, you know, some of those are deserved and some aren't. And we thought about a rod and reel. And have you ever been over the mayor's tackle shack over there? He's got about 10,000 of them. He's got about half that many shotguns. And he probably wouldn't use it anyway. I understand a few years ago, he got him a bass boat. And that thing sat in the garage for 2 years and never hit the water. And so that wasn't an option either. But we got to talking around. There was one little thing that came up that was near and dear to the mayor's heart. He had built 8 fire trucks for this community. And I can assure you he never wasted 1 penny more than he absolutely had to. So he's not a man for frivolity. But we decided that there was one little thing that he would like to have restored that was a little bit of frivolity. And that was a 1924 LaFrance fire engine that I bet a lot of you folks didn't know that Pittsburg owned. And so the proceeds from this banquet tonight will go toward restoring that fire engine that can be used for parade purposes, be on display. And just so we won't forget the mayor, on the side of that fire engine we'll have 2 plates. One of them will say, or both of them will say, 1924 American LaFrance fire engine restored by the Pittsburg Rotary Club, 1988, in honor of Mayor Dave Abernathy. Mayor Abernathy.
At this time, I'm going to ask Don Reynolds, who is the chairman of this banquet that we've enjoyed tonight, to come to the front. Don has a presentation to make to Laverne Abernathy.
You know, they say that behind every successful man, there's a good woman. Folks, in the Abernathy family, this is not the case. She's a virtual saint to put up with all. This fine lady has raised 3 fine children. She takes care of a big 2-story Victorian mansion. And she puts up with the mayor. And all of that alone is very remarkable. So the Rotary Club thinks that really she needed something too. And we couldn't think of anything to buy her. Anything she needed, what she wants, she gets. And we decided, that's right, one way or another. So we decided the best thing we can give her is a little vacation away from the mayor. So Laverne, on the weekend of your choosing, in the next few weeks, a limousine will arrive from Dallas, take you and 3 friends that you pick, and watch these people, they're going to be real good to you. Take you and 3 of your friends over to Dallas, to the dinner theater, dinner. The limousine will be available for you. You're going to be put up in one of the finest hotels over there for the weekend. You're going to get to leave the mayor at home. You may go anywhere you want, eat what you want, and do all this for 1 weekend along with 3 of your friends. And we have arranged this through the courtesy of 3 fine banking institutions, Pittsburg National, First State, and Cypress Bank.
I've got just a couple more introductions we need to do this late tonight and share a few things with you. First of all, I'd like to introduce to you our Rotary Club sweetheart. This is Miss Elizabeth Reynolds, the daughter of Don and Mary Reynolds. Elizabeth, where are you? Okay. And now I'd like to show you the folks that put all this together. I'd like for our Rotary Club members and their spouses to stand wherever you are in the building tonight. Let's see the folks that did that. I've been introducing the mayor all my adult life, if not longer. I've told you everything I know about him. I've told you half of what I suspect about him. But I want to give you now the only mayor I've ever had, the Honorable Dave Abernathy.
You know, there's many things happening tonight. It's very difficult to choose which one is most important. But the first thing I want to do, and I always take advantage of a captive audience, the first thing I want to do is correct this repair to the air conditioning at the Methodist Church. The fact is, we were repairing the blower down in the church, and it weighs about 225 pounds, and there were 3 of us working on it, trying to get it out of the case to take it to have some repairs made. And the preacher was down there, and he was a big fellow. One Dan Lewis is another preacher. And we were having difficulty getting this blower out of this framework. And I was getting very impetuous. So I asked the preacher if he would go outside and say a prayer. The unit, while he was going, kind of slipped out. And when he came back in, I said, "Preacher, you sure did pray a good prayer." That thing just slipped right out of there while you were out of the room. Of course, I'd said a few kind words to it. No, it's indeed a high honor tonight to have this distinguished group here. I have many friends from all over the East Texas area that I've known for a number of years, and I'm most appreciative for all of you being here, but especially those who have come from distant points. For example, I see my friend Wendell McCall here, Mayor of New Boston, Bob Montgomery, Mayor of Tyler, Jim Smith, Mayor of Lone Star, Elm Ellis, President of the East Texas Health Foundation, many, many more I could name. But I want to express my sincere appreciation for the comments that were made by Dan Lewis and the Honorable Sam Hall, Jr. Sam didn't tell you we had him up to the house eating watermelon one time, too. But he sure enjoyed that ride on that Model T Ford. They're a great couple. We have the greatest admiration for he and his wife, Hadley. We have admiration for all of you, and I can sincerely say that what we have accomplished over the years could not have been done without your support. We've called on many of you when we were going to Boston on projects, roads. The State Highway Department has been most cooperative with us in this area. I've made 14 presentations before the Highway Commission. We've never come away empty-handed. I know all the commissioners, I know the state highway engineer, I know many of the senators and representatives of the state of Texas. So we're most fortunate that we have the good roads in the East Texas area. I'm on the program for the Texas Good Road Association next Tuesday, and we'll make a presentation in Austin at that time. So without the cooperation of all of you people and those people in Austin, we could not have accomplished these many feats that have been brought to a conclusion. I was surprised when the Rotary Club set this program up for tonight. They invited me. One of them, Randy Smith, called me one day and said, "Don't you have something you want to tell the Rotary Club?" I said, "I always have something I want to tell the Rotary Club." We'll be at lunch next Wednesday. So I went. Well, we kicked around this France thing a little bit, and we have a Camp County Classic Car Club, 5C as we call it. And we have 62 members that have antique cars. They said, "We need to do the repair work on this 1924 American France fire truck, get it restored. But we need some money." So I talked to them about a very important subject that's coming down the pike in November. And I want to take a shot at you with this. There will be an amendment on the November ballot this year. It's called a Texas Good Roads Association Amendment. And all of the monies coming to the State Highway Department be spent by the State Highway Department, and not have the legislature taking funds out of it to fund some other state expenditure. Because the people who provide that money, this year is the first year that general funds have not been put in the Highway Commission funds. All the funds received in 1988 are from gasoline tax, registration of vehicles, overload permits, and etc. Now the users of the highways and the 17,000 miles of public highway in Texas are entitled to the best roads that can be provided and not have that money spent elsewhere. So we ask your support on this November amendment, where all the monies received will be spent for highway improvements and maintenance and repair. There are 15,039 employees in the highway department at this time. We feel that that money should be there since the users are paying it. The federal government provides $800 million to the State Highway Department of Texas, provided the State Department spends $800 million of its money first and asks for reimbursement from the federal government. So if they don't have that money, you don't get that $800 million from the federal government. So I don't want to belabor this too long. You've been here a long time, but I want you to have that information that we need to keep those funds in the highway department, and that's what this amendment will do. And not have them going out for Department of Public Safety or finance some other project of the state of Texas. We hope to continue to work as long as health permits to try to accomplish many other projects that we have in mind. I want to express my sincere appreciation to my wife for putting up with my many, many trips away from Pittsburgh and many, many meetings in Pittsburgh, and you have a brochure of my current activities, which require a lot of time. I spent over half of my life in public office, and I've attended many, many meetings all over the state of Texas. I will continue to do so as long as I think it will help the people of Pittsburgh and Camp County. And my ultimate goal and objective during the past 39 years was to provide a more enjoyable life and benefit the people of the East Texas area. God bless each one of you. I appreciate your attendance here tonight, and it has been a great honor to me to have you present. Each time I have received an award like Man of the Year in '61, Man of the Year in '78, that was the highlight at that time. this caps it all. And I want to express my sincere appreciation to members of the Rotary Club for sponsoring this affair. Thank you.
Mayor, I just want to thank you for being mayor. I don't know any other way to say it. I want to thank you people for being the most gracious audience to work with and to talk to, and just for being here tonight to help us celebrate and show our appreciation for what our mayor's done. I want to ask the Reverend Dan Lewis to come at this time, if he would, and lead us in our benediction.
I just have to say two more things. Laverne, when you get back from that weekend in Dallas, on Monday morning, if you want to get Dave's attention, you just walk around the house mumbling, I didn't know him. And I do want to set the record straight. I didn't mind so much when it started raining. Dave Abernathy jumped up, started shaking hands and smiling all over the building. It's his night. When Judge Hall got up here and took credit for it, that was too much. I want you to remember who you heard pray last year. It's been a joyous evening, a great evening. I'm glad we could share it. Let's stand and end with the word. Gracious God, it's been with us today. It's been with us in the past. And we know will be with us in the future. Pray that you would give each of us the strength, the character, the faith, and the hope to go and live as you would have us live. In pursuit of those things so good and worthy, represented in Dave Abernathy. He lives out what he understands to be Christian and a follower of Christ. May each home here be blessed. May happiness reign. Amen.
What'd you think, Dad?
It's just about healed up. Got the Band-Aid. Bruise on the garage. There you go. yesterday and gave it to her and she was pleased with it. Worked out good. And today my broker's license came in. I can do it crazy on my own now. Remember that conversation, right? I don't know what my comment was. I don't know what went wrong with it, but I had one day. I'm working on the house. I'm going to stay behind.
Well, you got to have a day off.
Well, I think Sunday off, I guess. Margaret really gets after me. She wants to move in. I get the roof on it.
Good to see you.
About passing me as non-smoker.
No.
You ever get done? I'm ready for them to put the back on.
On the non-smoker.
Good to see you.
You bet.
Hi, Cody. How you doing? I'm good. Okay, Brandon. You going out there? They probably still arguing about it. They still going on. Well, we can get us some beer here. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're getting them a beer. No, you're waiting for all of it back. We ain't proud for this. I know. I know. Tell me how you doing. Good to see you. How you doing? Good to see you. We sure enjoyed it tonight. Well, good. Get down there. How you doing? See you, son. Here's your competition. How are you? Good to see you.
Remember that if you need
You're going to the airport. Just 15 minutes. You got a layover, you're waiting on the plane, and what's going to take you there? Go to London first. Bridgestone. Well, we got it, we just don't know whether to start selling one more or vice versa. I don't think that's have a good time. Yeah. More interesting all the time.
How are you?
I see you up.
Second dessert.
Okay. Tell old Denny I said hello. I will.
That's all the way I can see it. You know what? We don't ever There you go. Good luck, Dave.
Nice job tonight. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You feel soon?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Hey! We're almost going to get out here. You bet. We're going. We're going. We're doing our time today. Hopefully the beer is still in somewhere. We'll find it. We may find that. We may find it. Good to see you, buddy. even find time anymore. They don't know what that do is go on to ready to go fishing and come.
We got 2 boats in there. Look like Abernathy's ours hasn't either. You know our new minister that's coming? Yes, he and his wife are both ministers.
I met your wife the other day.
What's there on for me tonight? A lot of compliments was paid me I don't think I deserve, but I've done what I have to improve the quality of life of the people in this area, and that's been my primary objective ever since I became a councilman in 1949. So I want to tell you how much I sincerely appreciate all of the diligent work and effort that you put into this program tonight to make it a complete success. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, no, it looked good.
If it hadn't been for those rotten kids, some of you could have.
Can you imagine? No, I hasn't got a bar.
Well, I went down there and he told me to go to the Easy Mart and turn left. I never seen that. So I came on down to Jimmy's done something. Best way to go.
What's that for, Mayor? What is that?
That's an interesting drop on. Okay.
It's unusual.
I'm saying about a cup.
I think this is just fantastic. I just love it. I called her yesterday. I didn't tell her. Then one time you see her, I didn't tell her I was coming up here.
And Ruth, we're holding up on you. Like you're over here.